Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back if you're a returning subscriber. Today I'm going to talk about my March reads, and March was a really good month of reading for me, so I'm very excited to share the books that I read and my thoughts. I read 5 books in the month of March, and I have my Goodreads reviews here with me, so let's jump right in. The first book that I read in March was Powerless by Lauren Roberts, and I think Kai Azer is my new favorite book boyfriend of the century. Like, hello? I was absolutely obsessed with the banter and the flirting between Kai and Peyton. Like, a hot man who is honest and raw and says exactly what he's thinking. Yes, it can't get any better. I found that Kai was so charming and delivering such beautiful lines to Peyton. Lauren Roberts honestly had me melting and so giddy over a fictional man. And the angst that I felt waiting for something to happen between Kai and Peyton was insane. I was eating up this forbidden romance, and the ending, like, I was like, Lauren Roberts, are you really kidding me right now with this ending? I was feeling all the emotions. Also, the trials aspect of the book, loved. The book definitely gave me Hunger Games vibes in that aspect of having like the trials, and the elite were the ones that, you know, would watch, and it was kind of like the elite versus the people without powers. The powerless were separated, but it was so much more than that. Like, it was so much more than that, and I immediately dived into Powerful after reading Powerless. And honestly, if you didn't like this book, you're lying. I'm convinced you're lying. Second book I read in March was the novella Powerful by Lauren Roberts. So this is what comes in between Powerless and Reckless. And I am glad that I read it in between the two. Some people don't read it until after Reckless, but I chose to read it as the 1.5, how it was intended. And you guys, I was sad. I knew from the ending of Powerless that I was going to be sad, but it still hurt. It still wasn't any easier. Adina was written to be such a positive, joyous light. She did not deserve this. And reading what happens from her perspective was absolute emotional damage. I needed 5 business days to recover. But I also needed more. Like, it was very quick and short, and it's a small, short read. I need to know how Mac will go on. And Lauren is just really out here pulling on our heartstrings with this series. And then, because I'm so obsessed with this story, after reading Powerful, I jumped right into reading Reckless. Reckless was my 3rd read of the month of March, and I had to give Lauren Roberts a round of applause again for creating Kai Azer for us. This man just always knows what to say. I was melting again. Honestly, in this book, the pretending got me good. I was so sick of it. The amount of angst that built up within me, I was dying for the absolute real deal. I did kind of see the ending coming in this book once there started to be mention of the little box. If you've read this book, you will know what I'm referring to. But I still loved this book regardless, and I'm still obsessed with Kai and Peyton's relationship. And I immediately ran to pre-order Fearless, which comes out, I think, next week. And so I'm very excited. Once I receive that, I will be starting it immediately. So to recap also on my exact star rating reviews, I gave Powerless 5 stars, I gave Powerful 4, and then I gave Reckless 5 stars as well. Okay, the fourth book that I read in March was Rebel Witch, which is the second book in the duology of The Crimson Moth, or if you live here in Canada, the first book is called Heartless Hunter, and then the second one is Rebel Witch. So this was my fourth read, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I kind of found the first half of the book to be a little bit boring. It wasn't the absolute fire that I expected after reading Heartless Hunter and the cliffhanger that that book leaves on. But I did like the ending and how it all came together. Once all like the little Easter eggs were revealed and put together, like I liked that aspect of it. I was slightly upset that we didn't get a full wedding scene. Like, hello? I think it was good that this duology was just a duology. Like, I think if it was to go any further, I think it would have been too much. I think just leaving it at the 2 books was perfect. I did only give this one 4 out of 5 just because, again, I found the first half to be a little bit, I guess it wasn't super boring, but just a little bit slower, not what I was expecting. Okay, and the 5th book I read in March was The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. And this one is completely out of my comfort zone for genre. As you can see, like I read fantasy all March and then just threw in a historical fiction at the end. I'm in an online book club with my friends, and this was the pick of the month. And I did own the book already, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna join in this month. I'm gonna read this book. Why not? I'll give it a shot. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised. I definitely went out of my comfort zone by reading this book, because honestly, when I hear the word historical fiction and just even the word history, to me, it reminds me of like my boring high school social classes. So I guess that's my bad for still having that comparison, because this book was anything but boring. It is set in the 1940s and it is about World War II, but it's a beautiful story of love and war told by the perspective of 2 sisters who both experienced this war completely differently. It is an unforgettable story of the hardships that so many women endured during the war. At the end of the book, there's an author's note that I read by Kristen Hanna, and she mentions in there that the inspiration from this book and the characters in it came from real stories from real women. So I thought that that was so amazing to learn that. Stories of heroism and danger and courage, and you know, women who had paid terrible, unimaginable prices for their heroism. The more that Kristen Hanna had learned and researched about women during the war at this time and learning more about their stories, the more Kristen Hanna had learned about these women's stories who had lived during this time and gone through this experience, the more outraged she became that so many amazing women's stories have been overlooked through history. So that's what really inspired her to write this book. And I truly loved Kristen's writing. She was able to tell a story about World War II and history and keep me so entertained. It completely blew me away. It was beyond my expectations. Her ability to tell a story of just about history and have me enthralled the entire time, 5 out of 5 stars. I didn't cry like many people I saw on, TikTok, Booktok were sobbing after reading this book. I just really don't cry reading books, but don't get me wrong, it pulled on my heartstrings. It was very powerful, and it made me feel a lot of strong emotions. So I definitely will be exploring more of Kristen Hanna's books and potentially more in the historical fiction realm, but I'm going to start with just more of Kristen Hanna's books. Now let's talk about my April TBR. So for the month of April, I'm planning on finally reading the rest of the Housemaid series by Frida McFadden. I read The Housemaid last year, February. So I really need to just, come on, it's time, let's finish it. I have the second and third book, The Housemaid Secret, and then The Housemaid is Watching. So that's my plan, is to definitely read those two, as well as read Fearless by Lauren Roberts, because I've pre-ordered that. So as soon as I receive that from in the mail, I will be reading that. And then I probably will also try to get another fantasy book read. I'm thinking, I don't know, I have yet to start the Throne of Glass series, so that could be a potential. But I also am really dying to read Credence by Penelope Douglas, because that's been sitting on my TBR, and ever since I got it, I've just been thinking about it, because I feel like there is a lot of conversation around that book and I am missing out. So I need to see what I'm missing out on, you know? Anyways, if you read any books in the month of March, please comment. How many books did you read? Did you read any of the same ones that I read, perhaps? If you have read any of the books that I mentioned that I read in the month of March, please let me know your thoughts. Let's have a discussion. I am always interested to hear other opinions and thoughts on books that I read. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and definitely subscribe to my channel. I appreciate anyone who subscribes so much, as you're helping me grow my channel. And I'm very excited to get into my April reads and then come back at the end of April and let you know my reviews and my thoughts on those books. Bye guys!